You've seen all the glitz and glamour of pageants, but not what goes on behind the sash.
All right. Hey, y'all. It's Megan McCaffin, your Miss Wildflower volunteer, and we are here today with our Miss Montana volunteer, Madelynn.
Hi everyone, I'm Madelynn Hust, your 2025 Miss Montana volunteer, and I'm so excited to be here with y'all.
So just a couple of starter questions. What is your serve project?
So my serve project is called Advocating for Elders. It's about raising awareness for elder abuse and neglect, especially in rural communities. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart and incredibly important to me, both as just a member of my community and a healthcare worker.
Awesome. So what made you choose the Miss Montana Volunteer Organization?
So what made me choose the volunteer organization is I feel like their purpose really resonated with me. The community service aspect of it is definitely very important in my life. And I just know that there's a lot of really beautiful people involved with it as well. I think every organization is great, but personally for me, I think the values resonated really well.
So your year's kind of coming to an end a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what plans do you have to kind of wrap up everything?
So to wrap up the year, just spending some more time in the schools for sure, just visiting some kiddos. The summer's coming, so doing some outdoor events with seniors in the community is going to be something that I finish my year with too. And then the pageant, as everyone knows, the Nationals is next month, so that'll be an awesome end to the season. And then just getting to wrap things up by crowning the new Miss will be, that's the best. That's really what you look forward to, is getting to see all of the girls again and crown the next Miss.
Yeah, for sure. So, speaking of crowning, what was your first reaction to being crowned as Miss Montana Volunteer?
Honestly, in my head, I was there for the experience and I was very excited, but I hate to say I was confused because I didn't expect it. I was genuinely caught off guard. I was very excited, but I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm Miss Montana now. I have all these things that I need to get done." So it was like, "Yay!" And then it was like, "Oh my goodness, I have a lot of work to get done." A lot of things to do, a lot of people to talk to, a lot of things to organize. It's very exciting, but there's a lot of things that you do once you're a Miss.
Yeah, for sure. I remember I was staying up there with you, and I remember it was me, you, and Tian. And I very specifically remember I was like, "It's gonna be one of you two." I was like, I knew. I was like, I just kind of already knew it, and it was also one of those things where. So I
Right.
very specifically remember I was like, "It's gonna be one of you two," and your immediate reaction was just be like, "Ah!"
I
Like
know,
I was like,
actually, all the other girls too, I think was one of my favorite parts of the experience. Just how supportive all the women are of each other that are involved with the pageant is amazing. I really believe that the sisterhood is one of the most important parts of pageantry. Just getting to know everyone. You meet so many amazing women at a local level and then at a national level too. I mean, I'm going to get to meet 49 other amazing, determined women. That's incredibly exciting to me.
yeah, for sure. So, what was your favorite part of pageant week?
Of Pageant Week, like I said, just getting to meet everyone, those relationships that you build, I think they last a lifetime. And just getting to go do something different and experience something different. I think as an adult woman, especially a working adult woman, there's not very many times in our life where we get to go out, do something that's out of the regular work week. So just getting to go and do something amazing in my community, meet new people, try something new, I think that was the best part. Just getting to break out of that ordinary cycle and put myself out there was amazing.
Yeah. Are you looking forward towards any like specific part of being in Tennessee for nationals?
Um, as far as like the actual pageant itself, I'm just really excited. I love the stage. So something you know about me is I love being on stage. I was a professional freelance ballerina. I danced for the Arena Football League. So this stage is something that's not necessarily new to me, but I love. So I'm excited to be on stage. Whether it's evening gown, fitness and wellness, talent, I'm excited to be up there. For me, pageants were really a way to get to experience that part of my life again. Before I started pageants, And even further back, like I said, I was a professional ballerina, all of that. But I gave that up for a career in healthcare and also to take care of my family. My mother was in a pretty bad car accident about 4 years ago, so I kind of gave up that part of my life to take care of my family. And now getting to be in pageants, I get to perform again. So getting that opportunity to be on stage is huge for me. Just getting to pursue that part of my life again.
Yeah. No, that's super awesome. No, I agree. Like, I grew up a drama kid. I did dance when I was growing up. So, and like, as an adult, you don't have very many opportunities to like go take the stage for something unless you are doing it professionally. And there are
Right,
not many opportunities to even do it professionally. Like, it's such a
right,
hard niche to break into, and it's such a targeted niche as well. Like, you're honestly, you are so discouraged from like doing the arts or doing any of that, even at like a high school level. And it's
right,
so absolutely bananas to me because like I taught Romeo and Juliet with my freshmen, and at the very end of it, they were like, I had no idea I really liked this because it was their
right,
first time experiencing being on stage, doing any type of theater of any kind. So I saw some of their eyes light up, and I was like, they're doing a musical later, and they were like, oh yeah, I don't know if I'll audition for it. Like,
right,
okay. And they ended up getting a part in it, and they came to me and they were like, Miss McCarthy, it's so awesome, I got a part. I'm so excited. And
right,
I was like, yes, thank you. That's what I wanted from you.
right, right. I definitely feel like as an adult, we're kind of told that we have to choose between our passion and our career. And what's great is if both of those can align, but when you get down to it, not a lot of people can pursue a career in the arts, whether it's financial reasons, whether it's location reasons, family reasons. Some of us have to stay and take care of our families. So I feel like we're told either you get to pursue your dreams or you get financial stability. You pursue your dreams or you take care of your family. And I think for me, it's really important to represent that you can be a working, middle class woman and still get to follow your dreams. You don't have to give that up just because you're an adult. We don't have to give up what makes us special just because we're reaching a point in our lives where we're financially responsible and we're taking care of ourselves. I don't think that you should ever give up what makes you special and what makes you unique and the things that you love just because you're past the age where you can do it. I don't think there's ever an age where you should stop doing what you love.
100%. Like, I love being a teacher. I love, 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 love teaching. And it's so frustrating because I've had so many people be like, oh, there's still time to back out. Like, there's still this, there's still that. And then I have other people who are like, thank you so much. Like, we need good teachers in this profession. But at the same time, I'm like, these are the same people who have been telling me to like not pursue the thing I'm passionate about. And it's really
Right,
weird. It's this weird juxtaposition where it's like, oh yeah, no, you're not going to be making a lot of money. I wouldn't. But then there's this other part of it that's like, do it. You are great
right,
at this. Your kids
right,
love you. You need this. It's
right,
you're being pulled in like two different directions. It's so
right,
unbelievably freaking frustrating.
right. I agree. Yeah, passions these days, it feels like you can't really like support yourself and do what you're passionate about, you know? So it's definitely hard navigating that as an adult too. I mean, as young adults, we understand this, and a lot of people watching our podcast are probably going through the same thing. It's okay to feel conflicted, you know? It's okay to struggle with that, to struggle with, you know, your passion, your career. Are these the same things? Supporting yourself financially and also supporting your dreams, you know, those are all things that you have to figure out, you know, how to navigate. But like I said, I don't think you should ever give up what you love for, you know, a job. You can do both. It's hard, but you can do both.
Yeah. Honestly, if you set your mind to it, you definitely can. Like,
Right.
there was a point earlier this year where I was like thinking to myself, and there was a point even earlier in this year where I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go do my student teaching because of all sorts of other stuff that was happening. But
Right.
the director of field placement, like, literally came up to me and she was like, I can see how passionate you are about this. I'm going to fight tooth and nail for you to get into this because we need you in here because
Right.
you are one of the good ones. And that made my entire heart like so unbelievably happy. And like, even during my student teaching, I like waited and waited and waited to send my application to the point where Alyssa and Jan were texting me and like, are you going to compete this year? Are you going to compete this
Right.
year? I told them, I was like, I'm waiting to see how my life pans out. Like, I would like to have a job. Like, that's
Right.
kind of my number one priority right now is
Definitely.
financial stability, finding a job. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be placed in my dream school. Like, first interview I ever did, first place I
Right.
signed on to, it was my first choice, and I got signed. And I was so freaking happy to the point where now I'm like able to confidently send in my application and be able to compete again. And it was just like, it was so frustrating because it's like, I feel like I have to choose, but I'm not choosing. I'm just putting one on the back burner. It was like a weird position, but I was like, I'm going to finish out my school, I'm going to graduate, and then I'll see what happens from
Right.
there.
And going back to you saying that people around you pushed you to do that, I really think that we're the sum of the people that are around us and the people who are pushing us to do things, because I know for me personally, without the people around me in my life, I couldn't have pursued this. And it's not a matter of having the skill or even the time. I mean, no one has time, but you make the time. It's having people around you that say, this is something you need to do. Like, my coworkers have been incredibly supportive. They say, you know, we need a woman in healthcare who is willing to stand up for these people, you know, the elders in our community. And, you know, having, like, I'll tell you right now, the community in my nursing home that I work at right now, they have been the absolute most supportive of any community of people you could ask for. Every single day I go to work, my residents are like, how's the pageant going? You know, what is your dress like? Did you get your swimsuit yet? Like, you've been practicing your interview? They're on me every day. They're like, what's your progress with this? And they're all going to watch the live stream, too, of me competing. Yeah, it's so, yeah, they get so excited about it. And I think for me, like, things got hard. I'm in school. I'm working, you know, between 50 and 60 hours a week to support myself, to pay for my house and put myself through school. There was a lot of sicknesses that went through the nursing home this winter. There's a lot of hardship, but I think the most important thing is to find your why you're doing this and let that carry you through. Find that community of people, find that purpose, and then when things get really difficult, you see that in yourself and you remember, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I need to keep pushing on with this. Yeah.
It's like the favorite phrase of any teacher everywhere. It's just remember your why. It gets drilled
Right.
into you so freaking much. Because it's
Right.
like on these rough days, you do need to remember why you're there. Like, it's honestly, it's what keeps you going. I feel like no matter what industry you're in, whether it be something in STEM or healthcare or teaching or whatever it is, you need to remember why you're there and why you got put there in the first place. Because I'm a
Right.
firm believer that everybody has something they were meant to do on this earth. Doesn't matter what it is. It could
Right.
be designing parts for NASA. But like, if you're passionate about it and you have a rough day at work where you're questioning why you got into that field, like, remember why you did it.
Yeah, you have to have something to look back on and something to remember. Exactly.
100%. Well, because oftentimes there's a younger you, even if they're just starting their undergraduate, you can look back at them and say, like, you know, we did it, or I did it. Like, it's like remembering why you're there in the first place sometimes requires you to go look back at the person you once were, which is a fantastic freaking form of self-reflection. But it's also important because, like, that person that you were when you were starting your undergraduate, when you were starting your career, whatever it was, more than likely that person had no freaking clue what they were doing.
Right.
But they still were like, no, I'm going to do it. If
Right.
it was just through firm freaking stubbornness or actual passion or whatever it was, there was a reason why you stayed for it.
Right.
So just like going back and remembering that is so unbelievably important.
Right. And I feel like I owe competing this pageant to all of the versions of myself in the past. I mean, there's been a lot of times in my life, like when I was growing up, I had a dream. I was going to be a professional ballerina. I worked very, very hard, you know, for 16 years of my life to pursue that goal. And then COVID happened. I had to step up and take care of my family. I started working full-time in healthcare through the pandemic at that. I was working nights full-time, and then I'd go to school all day. I'd go to night school to get my CNA license. Then I'd come home and take care of my family. There was times where I'd get, 2 hours of sleep a night. So I feel like I owe that part of myself the most too, because there have been times in my life where I'm like, I was ready to give up. I was like, I'm having to give up everything that I'm passionate about in life. I'm not going to be able to pursue my dreams. I just have to buckle down and take care of my family, and luckily now I'm in a time in my life again where I can pursue these things again. So I feel like I owe it both to, the childhood version of myself who was hopeful and ready to go do all of those things, and then also the version of myself that had those things taken away. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. A lot of us have had to give up what we're passionate about, whether it's to family, not being able to afford it, just different things like that. So I owed it to myself to start pageants, and like I said, I think as women we're kind of expected to give up our femininity too sometimes. I think it's like once you're an adult and once you're a woman, it's like you can't dress up anymore. And I think that being in pageants really gives you an opportunity to explore all of that of yourself in a very safe space and environment where people are supportive of you. And it gives you an opportunity to be big again. I think as women, a lot of times we're kind of forced to be small. We're forced to be quiet. Just as society, kind of pushes us. Women are supposed to be demure. They're supposed to be quiet. They're not necessarily always supposed to have something to say, And I think pageants gives you a way to get rid of all of that. I'm going to be big. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to advocate for what I believe in. And I'm going to be beautiful. And I can be all of those things. And I can be successful. And I don't have to give any of that up.
Yeah, 100. You said it beautifully. I could not have said it better myself. All right. So going back to kind of the topic at hand, what is one mishap that's happened during your year as a title holder?
I've got a really funny one, actually. So me and Michaela, our team this year, Miss Montana's team, during Christmas, we probably were in 5 different parades and then did a bunch of different appearances then too with Salvation Army type stuff, Giving Tree type, all of that. But anyways, something that really sticks out to me is just a complete flop, is we were actually in the Laurel Parade, which if you don't know, Miss Montana Volunteer this year is from Laurel, Montana, so if there's anywhere that something shouldn't go wrong, it's my hometown, because everyone here knows me. I'm waving, everyone's like, Madelynn, I'm like, yay, everyone knows me, but then there's extra pressure because, everyone knows you and they'll remember. So, anyways, the night kind of started off, it was not without a hitch, because I think it was -5, -10, and I just wasn't thinking ahead. It was a really cute little Christmas type suit. It was a longer skirt, it was red, cute little red jacket. None of it was warm enough, for one, so didn't think that one through. So I'm literally freezing, shaking. We also didn't plan ahead of what float we were going to ride on, because a lot of the time it's you've got things going on, we would wing a lot of our appearances, so to speak. We just kind of show up and we start helping out with stuff and we kind of, work our way into it. Anyhow, we ended up on this really beautiful float. It was huge. It was a long trailer. It had these little inflatable penguins on it. It was so cute. We were so excited. So anyways, we got up on the float, and excited, whatever. And then we were just going down the beginning of the parade route. Everything's going good. I think, we're looking cute. We've got our crowns, our sashes on. We're killing the wave, everything's going good. And all of a sudden, he slams the brakes, the driver, and I flew back 4 feet. And mind you, I was wearing a skirt, so you can imagine how that went. And I was luckily, I was wearing proper undergarments, so to speak. But just the humiliation, I think, of flying back 5 feet into an inflatable penguin, I humbled me as an experience. 5 feet into an inflatable penguin, while the Billings News is videoing, and everyone around you knows your name. I think that was a pretty. But for me, I'm one of these people where it's I swear, I can't leave the house without doing something silly. I have a tendency to get myself in sticky situations, or I don't know. I don't know how some people go about their day every day without embarrassing themselves, because for me, maybe I'm just incident prone, but it seems every time I have an appearance, there's a little something that goes wrong. Whether it's an awkward interaction, or like, you know, flying 5 feet into an inflatable penguin in 10-degree weather, or, you know, losing your crown, having someone snatch your crown. Like, there's always something that's going to happen, but it's just important to not be too hard on yourself, and just remember, like, sometimes it feels like people are judging you, and granted, some people are, but to just give yourself that grace. I can make mistakes. I can look silly sometimes. It's all okay. It's all part of the process, and I think sometimes people seeing those vulnerable sides of you makes them understand that you are a person. You're not just a person you're not just someone with a crown and a sash waving. You're just like them. You have you have a life, you make mistakes, you're a person. So I think showing that vulnerability is really important. But yeah, anyways, the penguin incident was pretty funny.
Hey, you know what? At least you let out something somewhat soft instead of just right into the trailer, because coming from somebody who has like had a driver slam on the brakes and have me like flip into a trailer, it hurts.
I know.
It hurts a lot.
For me, the most embarrassing part was, like, you know how baby deer stand up? Trying to get back up, I think, was more humiliating than the falling down. Because I was, like, wobbling. Michaela was, like, embarrassed, too. She's, like, grabbing me, like, lifting me up. Yeah. It was humbling. It was, like, the car ride home. We were both just, like, silent. She was just looking at me, like, like, she didn't want to say anything, but she did. I feel like that's one of those videos that could be on one of those viral video pages, so to speak.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I feel like that would also be like me falling on stage, like completely eating it during rehearsals at one time.
And then there's learning experiences too. Like, my heels, I didn't plan enough ahead, because when I was doing the pageant, my first pair of heels I got were too tight. And then the second pair I got fit good when I first got them, but once they were broken in, they were too loose. So it's little things like that that you learn over time, where it's like a good pair of heels that fits your feet can make all the difference between walking confidently and wobbling around stage. And it's little things like that that, for me, not coming from a pageant background, I had to kind of learn the hard way. I did one other pageant before I competed in Miss Montana Volunteer. I competed in the Miss Montana USA. And that was a great experience, but it was also a really humbling experience. Not because it really matters, you know, where you place in the hierarchy. Granted, I was at the very bottom, you know? It was about learning all of those things that no one tells you. I mean, you can watch the videos, you can listen to the podcast, but until you've experienced it, you don't really understand what goes into it. Like, learning the interview process, getting shoes that fit, you know, just things that you think are common sense, but you don't really learn until you've experienced it yourself. I think that my first pageant was definitely a learning experience for me. I was humbled pretty quickly, so to speak. Yeah, it's good to be confident, but then I also have to learn that all of it's a process too, like with anything else. It's sort of a learning process that you go through, a learning curve. A lot of it, people who are outside of pageants, they think that it's all really easy. You know, they think the walk is easy, they think the talent's easy, they think the interview's easy. And granted, some of it might be kind of easy. I mean, you're doing it at home. You know, you're doing the walk, you're thinking, I've got this. You know, what could go wrong? I'm slaying this, so to speak. And then you get on stage, the lights are going, people are watching, your peers are watching, the judges are watching, your family's watching, and all of a sudden everything is completely different. Those things that you've practiced 100 times get to be 100 times harder when you're shaking because you're nervous, or, you know, you're having a wardrobe mishap, or you end up in the wrong order. Not paying attention. There's just little things that happen during pageants, but anyways, yeah, it's all a learning process, and I think something important for me is learning that I have to give myself grace as much as I give other people grace too, because it's really easy to be hard on yourself and get negative, and when you're negative on yourself, it makes it really hard to be successful. Also, just not comparing yourself to other people, but comparing yourself to the person you've been in the past. I think that growth is really a line of how you're doing compared to how you were doing last year, how you were doing the year before, how you were doing yesterday. And I think in pageants, it's just as in anything else, it's really easy to compare yourself to other people, but you have have to try not to do that, because it's important to be the best version of yourself. And people who are there to watch you are there to watch you. So learning self-improvement is good, but you also have to stay your authentic self and not change yourself because it's what you think they want to see. Like, you have to remember that improvement is good, but improving yourself based off of what you need to be a better person, not to make yourself more like someone else that you're competing with. And that's a hard place to be. You want to be successful, and sometimes you see other people that are successful and you think, how can I be more like them? And I think the most important question is, how can I be more like me? How can I be the best, most elevated version of myself?
No, for sure. So, circling back a little bit, what is your favorite memory from your year as a title holder?
Like I said, just spending time with the people at the nursing home I work at and how excited they are about it. Like, I'm excited about it, but I can easily say that they're 10 times more excited about it than I am. Just like coming to work every day and updating them on like what I'm doing and showing them my dress, walking for them, practicing my walk. It's things that are silly like that like don't really seem important that they get really excited about, but I think really just breathes new life into it for me, because I was excited, but then I also reached a point where I was like, I have school, I have work, financial burdens come into play, family, and I kind of hit a point where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. And then just seeing their support and doing things with them, it really is what has made the whole experience for me. It's been my reason to keep going, and it's by far been the best part of the pageant experience for me. It's just the community of people that I work with.
That's super awesome to hear too. Like, I feel like if you have a community backing you, everything else just kind of becomes like back burner stuff.
Right. Like, just having that reason, having that community, I think is the most important thing. Community, reason, and then just staying authentic to yourself, I think, are the most important parts of the pageant. There's the shoes, there's the dress, there's the walk, there's the talent, there's all the little things. But I think all the little things will work themselves out if you have the big things in place. Just something that you're truly passionate about, having a purpose, having that drive. If you have the big things there, then the little things, you can start to work on as time goes. Because none of us are perfect. We all have little things to work on. But having, like we've been talking about, that overarching purpose is, I think, by far the most important part of pageantry. As in just life or anything else. I mean, it's not just pageants. It's your career, it's your life, it's your family. Just having all of that drive and reason is the most important, essential thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, what is your favorite memory from pageant week?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of them. As far as like from pageant week goes, I think just getting that assurance is probably my best memory and experience from it, besides, of course, like I said, the community, working with the other girls. I think just getting that confidence for me is what felt the best, because going in, like I said, I competed in Miss Montana USA, again, another great pageant system, and I did really poorly, not just place-wise. That's not really my concern. I just felt like I didn't do my best. I could have done more things to prepare. I could have learned a lot more. I could have built more relationships, because, becoming friends with other people, they will teach you different things. You'll learn different things. I didn't do enough to prepare for that, and I think coming to Miss Montana volunteer and taking all of that and building off of that and building my confidence was what felt the best for me. Like, seeing that I am capable of doing this and seeing that I am capable of learning, I think is what felt really good, because it's hard going from a low of not doing well with something. It's hard to put yourself back out there and do it again. Like, when you see that you don't do well, the last thing you want to do is say, I'm going to go do this thing again. It's a hard experience, relearning and figuring things out and humbling yourself and saying, I didn't do well, this is what I need to work on. But once you get to the point where you do get those no's and you do get those closed doors and you learn, I think it makes your progress feel 10 times better. Starting here and then being able to work yourself up it's really, the beauty is all in the process, because at the end of the day, only one person gets crowned, you know, whether it's at a state level or national level. And I think really the victory is the self-improvement that you can make to yourself and what you can do for your community. So if you are building yourself through the pageant and you are building up your community through the pageant, that's really what you take away, because you only spend a year with the crown. There's only so much you can get out of that. But the skills that you develop, the interpersonal skills, the life skills, your projection skills, those are things that you can utilize forever. So it's really about the journey, not the destination, is what I had to remind myself.
Yeah, for sure. And it almost cracks me up a little bit, because everybody's always like, Megan, you have such a great teacher voice, like you project so well. And part of me is like, okay, I'm a pageant girl. What do you expect from me? Of course I know how to project my voice. If I have to talk to a room full of, I don't want to say very, but they are kind of judgmental, like middle school and high schoolers. Like, yeah, I need to be able to like stand up here and act like I know what I'm doing.
Right. And I think the acting like I know what I'm doing thing, I think that's a perfect way to put, you know, learning how to present yourself for pageants. Because to some extent you have to understand, like, everyone in life is winging it. Like, we're all learning as we go. But part of being a pageant girl, and just, you know, an adult woman in general, is learning how to just channel that, you know, your voice, your projection, your expertise, like, learning how to be well put together and learning how to be professional and learning how to present yourself well is a huge part of pageants. And then that skill transfers to everything, whether you're doing a job interview, whether you're, you know, speaking to a group of your peers, whether you're doing a public presentation about something you're, you know, passionate about, or, you know, even talking at church. Just all of those sorts of different things that come into play in your life, you will utilize that public speaking skill for. It's really an invaluable skill, and learning it is so incredibly important. And for me, I've always been an introvert. Like, I didn't even talk to people until I was in, you know, I think probably my freshman, sophomore year of high school. I stayed in the library, I'd read my books, I would kind of, you know, keep to myself. So initially getting into pageants was super hard for me, because I'm the type of person where I will avoid social interaction if I can. You know, if there's a way I can avoid talking in front of people, or I can avoid being interviewed, or I will. So being in pageants has made me learn how to not avoid. That sometimes you do have to take things head on, and you do have to speak up for yourself. You're not always in life going to be allowed to, you know, hide in the bushes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's kind of fun, because I'm the exact same way. Up until like my junior year of high school, like during lunch, I would literally like take my lunch, go to the library, check out a book, and just sit there reading.
Yeah, right.
And it's so funny, because people are now surprised that I'm an English teacher, and I
Right.
just sit there and I'm like, where have you been for the past like 22 years?
That's too funny.
So you kind of already talked about it a little bit, but Nationals is coming up in about a month or so now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are you kind of doing to prepare for that level of competition?
So there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different levels to it. I think the most important thing is practicing things that you're not the strongest in. And for me, a lot of that is my interview skills, my social skills. So learning how to speak up for myself and really present myself and my story well has been a big push for me, you know. And I practice a lot with my coworkers. I practice it, you know, with my residents, my patients. Like, I think that sometimes people think that to practice, it has to be this big process. You need to have these really expensive tutors. You need to have the best of this, the best of that, an expensive gym, an expensive place to go get your TANs, all of this. But I think for me, it's all been about resourcefulness. It's about utilizing what you have in your circle, working with the people that you can to best prepare yourself without putting yourself in a bad position financially too. Like, preparing is good, but then you also have to reach a point where you're like, okay, maybe I don't need to go to the, you know, $5,000 pageant coach for 20 minutes, you know, because at the end of the day, a lot of the people around you can help you prepare for your skills. Like, so for me, what my prep looks like is, just eating healthy and stuff too, just for myself, for my confidence, and for my body, just nourishing myself well, eating a lot of protein, stuff like that. And for my exercise, I actually do my exercises at home. I do not really like the gym. I feel uncomfortable there, like I said, as an introvert. And just as a woman too, gyms can kind of be uncomfortable. I feel like people are watching me. And for me, I know that I perform better in an environment that I'm comfortable in. So I do home workouts. I mean, it's nothing special. It's not some expensive big plan. It's just, as long as you have a plan and you stick to it, a plan that you can stick to that's reasonable is 100 times better than some big extravagant thing that you can't. I'll say that 100 times again. It's great to make plans to go to the gym. It's great to get a personal trainer, but at the end of the day, if it's not affordable for you and it's not reasonable to fit into your schedule, then it's not something you're going to be successful with. So you have to think about how you can be successful with what you have. So it's all about sticking to what you can, getting things done that you can, setting your goals high, but somewhere that's reasonable for you as well, because if you set your goals too high, sometimes you can't reach them. And if you can't reach them, then you just feel bad about yourself. So setting reasonable expectations for yourself is good, because then you can reach them and you can feel good about yourself and you can make progress. For my walks and stuff like that, usually on my lunch break, I'll go practice them like down the halls because I work nights, so everyone's sleeping. I mean, occasionally someone won't be sleeping. They'll come out and they're like, oh, that's a fancy walk you've got going on there. I'll be like, strut, 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 pose. Be clapping for me, So it's just about making things reasonable for yourself. And my talent, luckily I have a space, just down the street I can utilize because I'm a dance teacher. So Movement Montana has worked with me. Montana Dance Center, where I've also taught, has worked with me to utilize those spaces to kind of practice my talent and stuff like that. Like I said, I've been practicing my things, but I think the most important thing is consistency over anything. It's not about who has the most expensive, equipment to use, or just things like that. I think it's just important to remember to just stay consistent and do what you can. And if you keep up that consistency, you're going to make progress regardless. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I want to say that's one nice thing about signing on to my school is that they hardly use the gym. We collaborate with another rural school to do all of our sports and stuff. So
yeah.
I know once it gets closer, the second I get back, I'm going to move and then talk to my superintendent and just be like, can I borrow the gym?
Right. It's all about finding those places you can practice, and it's just community 100 times again, like we were talking about. If you are good to your community, you treat your community well, your community will treat you well. Those interpersonal connections with people around you will make your pageant experience and just your life so much easier. It's important to treat the people well around you, Just in general, keeping healthy relationships is so important for anything you do, because having different people in your corner to help you with things is huge. And then in turn, being in their corner to help them with things too. So for me, I would attribute 99.9% of my success to the people around me and what my community has done for me.
Sure. So, kind of going off of that a little bit, what was one difficult part of pageant week for you?
For me, I think the hardest part is that I was just getting over being really sick when we came into pageant week. Like I said, there was part of being in healthcare is being exposed to a lot of illnesses. And especially, for me, I have asthma and I have some other health issues going on. So if I get exposed to something and I end up sick, it can be really difficult for me. And coming into pageant week, I'd just gotten over viral pneumonia. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to come or not. But luckily, I, taken all of the medications that I was supposed to. I had gotten 2 days of rest in between. And then I packed up all of my stuff in my car and I drove 4.5 hours to Glendive, So I think the hardest part for me was trying to stay positive when I felt physically so down at the time, and trying not to let it get to me and let it get to my head, because there was a lot of times, you probably remember during pageant week, that things were going on and I was just laid out in a corner somewhere sleeping.
I think that was all of of us, though, like, something nobody understands is, like, you are there super late, you get there super early.
Right.
So if you have, like, 5 minutes to just lay down and take a nap, you take it. I know there's a photo of me that Leslie took, and it's literally just, like, me in our dressing room laying down, like, with my pillow and with my blanket, and I was, like, head, like, you would only see my little head, and Leslie was like, Megan, do something. I was just like, hi.
Right. It's definitely,
From the pool.
it gets a lot more intense than people think it does, because like you said, you're practicing all day, you have that anxiety, you have that self-doubt, all of that going on, and I really feel like the biggest battle isn't acquiring all of the skills, it's staying confident and staying, true to yourself through it, because it's hard to keep going during pageant week. You're tired physically and mentally and socially, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of girls in the same place. There's a lot of people with authority over you in the same place. You're not in your regular routine. And mentally, you can get kind of down sometimes, and you can get kind of confused, and you definitely have times where you're like, I hate to say, why am I here? What can I contribute to this? But sometimes you do feel bad, and you look at the people around you, There were so many amazing girls, Our current Miss Washington, Sophia, was there. Brianna, you, Tian, all these women are around you, and going back into the comparison, you see all these things that these other people are doing, and it can be really easy to get down on yourself when you're comparing yourself to all the beautiful, amazing women around you. But then again, at the same time, they're also your greatest support too. So sometimes when you're feeling down, people will see you, looking sad or looking tired or whatever. And there's a million times, that weekend where I'd have, either you or someone else say, hey, like, are you okay? Is there something I can do for you? Like, do you need a hug? Like, even though things are hard because you very much do compare yourself to other people when you're competing, it's also good because there are so many good supportive people there between the administration and the other girls involved. I think the support outweighs, like, the self-doubt and the worry.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of taking a little bit of, like, a less serious note on that. What was the funniest thing, in your opinion, that happened during pageant week?
My stomach was super upset the whole time. I think it's a mix between just being sick and my anxiety. And, like, during the bikini walk, I was like, oh, I was like, this is scary. Like, we're on stage, I'm wearing this little bikini, like, this could go so bad, like, this could go so bad. Like, I have a tummy ache, and I am walking on stage in this little bikini in front of all these people, just pray for, I looked over, I think I looked over at you, and I think Brianna and Sophia too, and I was like, you guys, pray for me. This could go really good or really bad.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I feel like there were a lot of little things that just, like, would go wrong. I mean, I think as far as, like, things that went wrong during the week, I think almost all of us fell at some point, For me, I totally at my heels during practice, and that could be hard to recover from, because, like, once it gets in your head that you fell, then you, like, think about it, and you're like, yeah, I fell. I'm gonna fall again. I'm gonna fall. I know it. But sometimes you just have to, like, overcome those mental blocks when you're on stage of, I'm not gonna fall. Just because I fell one time, 8 o'clock at night 3 nights ago, that doesn't mean I'm gonna fall again.
Yeah, for sure. No, like, everybody falls at some point, and so, I don't want to say funny, but it is, like, a little funny. Like, looking back on it, you look at, like, when you fell, and you were like, that could easily be the most embarrassing point of my life.
But it's never that serious, is the thing.
No.
Like, everything feels like the end of the world when it happens, and then, once it's over, you're like, whatever, it's funny. It's funny, but it's not funny at the time. At the time, it feels like you're a failure, and everything's horrible, and you're never going to recover from this, and then the next day you're like, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so we are on our last 2 questions here. All right, first one is, what advice do you have for those who are thinking about competing in general?
I think my advice is if you're thinking about it, just do it. Like if you're considering it enough, if you've thought about it enough times to be asking, you should probably just do it. Like if you're online looking through, should I compete in pageants? Do I have what it takes for pageants? What should I do for my pageant talent? If you've asked yourself more than 1 to 2 times if this is something that's for you, the chances are it is for you. So don't get so held up thinking, am I good enough for this? Can I do this? Do I have the support for this? Because the answer is it's yes. It's yes with all of it. It's just a matter of figuring all of the things out. If you feel overwhelmed with it at first, that's okay. Everyone feels overwhelmed with it. It's just a matter of making that commitment to take it on. And then you can break down everything else. If you find your commitment, you find your purpose, like we talked about earlier, all of the smaller things you can figure out within yourself and within your community. If you really want it, it will all work out just fine. Just do it. That's my advice. If you're thinking about it, do it. Like, there's absolutely nothing you have to lose from doing it. Absolutely nothing. I mean, whether you come out with a crown or a few $100s in scholarship or just lots of experience, I mean, maybe you compete and you don't like it and you never do it again. I mean, at least then you will know that it's not for you, and then you won't have to think forever, I wish I would have done that when I was 20. You know, I wish I would have put myself out there and done something more. If you put yourself out there and you don't end up liking it, that's fine. But I think that if you have that curiosity and that want to do it, you should just do it. I mean, you don't have anything to lose by it. I mean, at the worst, you lose a week of your time and prepare for something you don't need to. I mean, like I said, there's really only things to gain by being in pageants. So, like I said, my advice, just go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that just putting yourself out there, because I think 90% of the challenge with pageants is just deciding to do it and putting yourself out there. It's just getting the ball rolling. It's filling out the application. It's making that promise to yourself, you know, to your family, to your friends, to your community, that you are going to do it. And I think once you make that choice and you make that commitment, that is by far the hardest step. Nothing will be as hard as that. So once you get that part out of the way, everything else you can sort out.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. I feel like your biggest block in doing anything is always yourself.
Right, and just, I think fear of judgment, too. I would like to say that I don't care what anyone thinks, you know. I know that I'm great, whatever this, whatever that, but at the end of the day, you do care what people think, you know. You're worried what your friends will think, you're worried what your family will think, your community. Sometimes there's stigmas against pageantry. People think that, you know, they see the dresses, they see the talent, the swimsuits, they think, you know, these people are selfish. All they care about is their appearance, they're shallow. So part of getting into pageants is, you know, for one, being a woman that fights that stigma. And then for two, you know, just being okay with doing it even though there is a stigma against it sometimes. But then again, going for it and doing your best also shows the community this isn't what pageantry is about. Because a lot of what I've gotten, especially being in a rural community, is that people don't understand that this is a scholarship organization. A lot of us either have been in school and have graduated and we're trying to pay off our student loans, or we're in school and we're wanting to further our education and we're wanting to further our relationship with our communities, and that this is truly one of the best outlets that there are. So fighting that stigma against pageantry, I think, is really important. And just being able to accept judgment sometimes, to understand, I'm going to do this, and people are going to judge me for it, but people are going to judge me regardless of what I'm doing. So I might as well do what makes me happy, and know that people will judge me for it, but people will also judge me if I'm not doing it too. So just getting over that worry of what other people think and understanding, because you could be like, oh, no one's going to judge me for it. People will, but just becoming okay with it and becoming comfortable in your own skin, and just being able to represent yourself, represent the organization, and just the pageant community as a whole. Just learning how to represent all of it, I think, is important, a huge important part of the journey. It's just being able to step into yourself and be confident and say, I am a woman that loves pageants, you know? I am a woman that enjoys this, you know, organization. I think this organization is great, and not feeling any shame about being in pageants, I think, is very important if you want to participate.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so bananas too, because I've had so many people just be like, "Oh, you compete in pageants?" Like they have that tone of voice, and I'm like, "Yes, I do. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
noticing."
pageant, Megan. And when people ask, when people say it, not, oh, you do pageants? Yes, I do pageants. It makes me confident. It makes me focused. It gives me a reason to push towards all of my goals, which I already have a reason to push towards my goals, but I think pageants also help you because it gives you a reason to put yourself out there. I think sometimes the crown and sash, it kind of gives you authority, you know? When you have that on, to me, it feels like I'm important. I have something to say. People want to hear what you have to say because you've got a shiny, People are like, oh, what does this person have to say? And then sometimes it gives you an outlet to open up and present yourself that you might not have had without, or you might have had without the sash, but you don't feel like you have it. But this gives you like a physical representation on yourself that says, okay, I can do this. I can put myself out there.
All right. So, final question that we have here is, what is one mental health mantra or habit that you live by?
Like I said, not comparing myself to other people, I think has always had to be my biggest mantra because that is something that I really struggle with is self-comparison. And I would love to say that it's not, but just getting in my own head and saying, what do I need to work on? What do I need to work on? Because it's so easy to get caught up in what other people are doing and to get focused with other people that you start to lose yourself. So what can I do is always a good question to ask yourself. What can I do for my workouts? What can I do for my prep? What can I do for my community? What can I do? Not what are they doing, not what do they say you should do, not what they say you shouldn't do. What can I personally do for myself that I can do to just build myself as a person, build myself for pageants, build up my community. Sometimes you get the mentality of, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have enough time for this. But if you flip that to the positive side and say, I do have time for this, workout, I do have time for this appearance, then you start building yourself up because you're thinking of the positives. And if you keep building up those little things over time, all of that builds up and that becomes yourself and that becomes your pageant prep, Just positive thinking and not getting down on yourself. And just understanding that the little things make a big thing. And you don't have to be perfect right out the gate, and you don't have to have everything right out the gate. That it's okay to not be perfect, and it's okay to build. I think sometimes, especially these days, you look on social media, and everyone's portraying the best version of themselves. And I mean, that makes sense. You want to portray the best version of yourself. You want people to think you're great. But because we're seeing that every day, and we're not being exposed to what people's day-to-day life really looks like, it's easy to get down on yourself because you see, this person has a nicer car than me. This person, it looks like they're preparing more than me. This person has a higher degree than me. And you get yourself in this comparison game of these things that other people have that you don't. And I think that's a really dangerous mentality to be in. I think you just have to focus on what can I work on next and do best for myself. And I'll say that, I've said that a million times throughout this, but I think it's really important to focus on yourself and what you can do for yourself and for your community. Like for me, working with the seniors of my community, it hasn't even been the pageant itself that's been the best part. It's been what I can do for my community and how I can get involved that's been the best part. I mean, the crown was great. That was a great moment, but getting that crown is an excitement that lasts, the night. I would say at least the night, maybe a week after, maybe a month after. I'm excited I have the crown. But what you do with the crown, what the difference you can make for your community, that's really where the long-term joy of pageantry comes from. That's where the satisfaction comes from. And that's something that you're going to carry with you your whole life. And if you're passionate about your serve project, that's something you're going to carry on long after your pageant days are done. I mean, maybe you carried it through before, then you'll also carry it through after. What you're doing with pageants shouldn't start before the pageant and end after. You should just carry it all on the rest of your life. Carry on not comparing yourself. Carry on having small, doable goals. Carry on, working on your interview skills. Carry on building those relationships with people around you. None of these things you have to do just because you're in pageants, and none of things you have to stop because you've stopped your pageants. So really, taking those good things that you found within yourself and committing those to your lifestyle, I think is really where the benefit from pageants comes from, is really just taking on all these new things that you've never tried and becoming the best version of yourself is really where the journey lies.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, well, that is all of the questions that I have. Thank you. I know, yay! Thank you so much for hopping on this call with me. Best of luck in Tennessee. We are honestly, this entire time, I was like just sitting here listening, and I was like, yeah, they picked the right person. So,
Thank you.
super excited to watch you in nationals. You have a gigantic supportive community behind you, including all of us other girls. I'm going to speak for the rest of us.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So, yeah, this should come out. I try to get them out first Thursday of every month. So,
Perfect. Thank you. I'll be putting.
All right. Well, I will let you get back to the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for hopping on this call with me. And
Thank you.
seeing you at nationals.
Woo!